Hi everyone, my name is Sean Hudspeth and I'm a professional racing driver with Ferrari. Today, we're going to be reviewing the lovely 458 Spider. Remember to like, subscribe for more videos like this. We're going to be posting car reviews regularly, and this video is brought to you by East Coast Podiatry, a specialized lower limb clinic in Singapore that have been helping me with my right ankle treatment. So let's get straight to the point. This car is epic. The 458 produces an incredible 570 horsepower and 540 Newton meters of torque, which was way ahead of its time. No wonder it was International Engine of the Year at the time. This car is a 4.5 litre V8, revving to 9,000. So in the corners, the rear of the car feels so planted. And as a result, Ferrari have been able to fit super quick steering. You just turn the wheel and bang, the nose goes in. There's no hint of understeer at all. As a result, the car feels super light and really, really fun to drive. So another thing that I love about Ferrari is the passion and the pedigree and the racing history behind the name. It's not just a car brand, it's become an icon in itself. 90 years of racing history in Formula One. I mean, no other manufacturer comes close. The 458 itself also has a very rich racing history with the 458 GT2 racing car. In 2014, Ferrari claimed the FIA Endurance Cup for GT manufacturers with the 458 GT2. And not only that, the 458 GT2 also won the historic and prestigious 24 Hours of Le Mans, which is the ultimate test of a racing car. Speed, durability, reliability, everything. It's the toughest test. And Ferrari won it with this car. This is the last naturally aspirated Ferrari V8, sort of like end of an era. Ferrari were actually worried with the Spider that the turbulent air was going to ruin the exhaust note. So they redesigned the exhaust system and gave it new silencers. And it sounds absolutely incredible. The 458 Italia first came out in 2009, with the Spider making its debut in 2011. And this is the first folding hardtop for a mid-engine Ferrari, and it only takes 14 seconds for the roof to open and close. So the Ferrari 458 has real downforce on board, all derived from Ferrari motorsport. So for example, these wings here at the front deflect and deform at high speed to reduce the drag of the car and thus improving the top speed. So these little air vents here help air escape out of the front wheel arch so air doesn't get trapped, and that would create lift. So the air escapes and the front of the car remains pressed into the ground, generating more front grip. So this Pininfarina logo here is very, very special, especially with this car. This is the last Ferrari V8 mid-engine car that was designed by Pininfarina. So on the new 488 GTB, which replaces this car, they won't have this logo because it was designed by somebody else. So this is one of my favorite features of the car, the triple exhaust. This was a tribute to the wonderful Ferrari F40, which at the time was the fastest production car in the world. Very tasteful. So this is one of my favorite interiors. So you can see everything is angled towards the driver, the controls and the air conditioning units. It feels like you're sitting in a fighter plane, and that's because the layout of the interior components were designed together with Michael Schumacher, a 7-time F1 world champion and a 5-time champion with Ferrari. So it really feels like you're sitting in a racing car. Even the wheel looks like a Formula One wheel because all the controls are now mounted on the face of the wheel. And that's to make it more ergonomic and more easy to use. For example, when I'm driving in this position with my hands at 9:15, I can operate the indicators very, very easily and operate all the controls without having to move my hands from this position. The Manettino here, you have the CT off mode now, the addition of CT off, which basically means that the car will let you have some slip, but without letting you crash. So that just gives a little bit more freedom, an extra additional setting with the traction control. The difference between sport mode and race mode, you have faster gear changes, faster throttle response, stiffer suspension, different exhaust note. It just makes the car a lot more racy, a lot more dynamic. This switch here comes with the Magna ride suspension option. So this is bumpy road. So this basically allows you to change the suspension to a soft mode. So even if we're in race mode and we have the settings for the exhaust and the throttle and the gear changes, we're still able to have a soft suspension mode, for example, if we have a bumpy road. And I love these long shifter paddles, especially because they're attached to the steering column, which is not ideal for a racing car because you want the paddles attached to the wheel, but for a road car, this is perfect because if you're using plenty of lock, you don't need to look for the paddles, they're always where you left them, so it makes it much easier to drive. I love the attention to detail on the yellow stitching, the contrast between the yellow and black. This is a very, very nice spec. And I love all the carbon fiber as well. The center console in this car is so cool. It looks like I'm about to launch a rocket. You have these 3 buttons here, one for launch control, one for reverse, and one for auto, which basically allows you to toggle between automatic mode and manual mode for the gearbox. You have the hazard light here, which looks like I can fire a missile. You have the 2 window switches here to control the windows. You have the switch for the roof and also for the rear deflector. And you also have this little button here, which when you press it, opens the side compartment. I love that sound of the exhaust and the overrun, that burble, it's amazing. So addictive. So basically, Spider versions of cars are generally heavier because when you lose the roof, you lose rigidity because the only thing connecting the front of the car to the back of the car is the floor. Therefore, in order to keep the car as rigid as possible for handling and performance and for safety, car manufacturers have to add strengthening beams to make the car as rigid, and that means weight. And weight ruins everything. It ruins handling, it ruins braking, it ruins acceleration, it spoils everything. Ferrari have taken measures to try and minimize this weight gain. So for example, this folding hardtop roof is actually 25 kilograms less than the folding soft top roof of the 430 Spider. As a result, the curb weight of the 458 Spider is 1,535 kg, which is only 50 kilograms more than the coupe, the hardtop. Therefore, the Spider has the same 0 to 100 km/h time as the coupe, which is only 3.4 seconds. And the top speed is actually 20 km/h less than the coupe because of the added weight. So it will only do 320 km/h. Not acceptable. So, on paper at least, the Spider shouldn't be as good as the coupe, but honestly it's so good that I can't even tell the difference, especially driving on the road. And what you may lose in terms of performance, you gain with the overall experience of having a convertible. The sound, the wind, being exposed to the elements, that's priceless. Now, before we go any further, I just want to say a big thank you to my title sponsor, East Coast Podiatry. They are a specialized clinic in Singapore for incredibly fast and effective treatments. I really wanted to have them as my team podiatrist as they have been keeping me pain-free so that I can perform at my best. When I broke my ankle, they handled my post-op treatment and it was just amazing. This was like the ultimate test. I had to recover from a broken ankle in a matter of weeks, so they were pressed for time, working against the clock. They went all out like a pit crew, and they did different types of high-intensity treatment just to get me back on track as quickly as possible. After my first surgery, I could race, but I still couldn't run. Nearly 5 months later, I had a second surgery to remove the metalwork which they put in the first time. However, I was still in too much pain to be able to run. Then I flew back to Singapore, and after just a few weekly treatments at East Coast Podiatry, I was able to run again for the first time in nearly 6 months. They really made such a huge difference for me. I've personally recommended my own parents and my friends to go and see them. So if you're looking for a clinic which is absolutely world-class at treating foot, ankle, knee, and general leg issues, East Coast Podiatry is one that you can really depend on. Now back to the car. So the car actually looks very wide, but it's actually less than 2 meters in width, which means that you can use it around the city. The boot spaces are actually pretty decent for a mid-engine supercar. It actually looks bigger than some of the modern Ferrari mid-engine V8s. So in 2008, Ferrari became one of the first manufacturers to offer carbon ceramic brakes as standard across their model range. Therefore, the 458 was one of the first Ferraris to come with these carbon ceramic brakes as standard. As a result, it can decelerate from 100 kilometers an hour stationary in only 32.5 meters, which isn't only good for performance, but it's great for safety as well. Also in 2008, Ferrari introduced this lovely dual clutch gearbox. So the 458 was one of the first cars to feature it, with the California being the very first model. The 7-speed dual clutch gearbox, even though you don't get that sort of kick in the back of the head as you did with the previous single clutch in the 430, it's so much faster and smoother, and you can use the launch control freely without having to worry about destroying the clutch. There's also this electric wind deflector at the back, which I can control here on the center console, and that just helps to reduce the turbulent air in the cockpit, so you can drive with the roof down without your hair blowing all over the place. So the styling is one of my favorite things about this car. It was designed by Pininfarina under the leadership of Donato Fuoco, which was the Ferrari design director during 2009. Overall, the 458 produces around 140 kilograms of downforce when you're traveling at 200 kilometers an hour. So the car feels very, very stable at high speeds. The interior is lovely too, designed by, I'm probably going to get in trouble for pronouncing his name wrong, but Bertrand Rapatel, who was the chief Ferrari interior designer at the time. So now the big question, how much do you need to pay for such an incredible car in Singapore? So it depends on the spec. So for example, this is a very, very high specification car that's got lots of carbon fiber on the interior. You have the shift lights on the steering wheel. Depends on the COE, depends which year the car is, depends whether it's a Spider or not. But you can get one for as low as 550,000 SGD, and it goes all the way up to around 700,000 SGD. Is it expensive? Yes. Is it worth it? Absolutely. If I had the money, I would buy one of these tomorrow. This car is a future icon and is already showing signs of not depreciating. If that isn't enough, the 458 won Car of the Year 2009 and won Supercar of the Year. It also won Cabrio of the Year in 2011 with the Spider from Top Gear magazine. So should you buy a Ferrari in Singapore? The answer is also yes, and there are 3 good reasons. Number 1, the roads are nice and smooth. You don't have to worry about destroying the car on huge potholes or bumpy road surfaces. Singapore is also a very safe country, so you don't need to worry about the car getting scratched, stolen, getting mugged at traffic lights. You don't need to worry about all of that. The third reason is we have a world-class Formula 1 track right next door in Malaysia. So a lot of people think that to enjoy a Ferrari, you have to drive it flat out all the time, but it's just not the case. We're doing 50 kilometers an hour now. It's comfortable. It's not overly loud when you're not driving fast. It's smooth. The double clutch gearbox is so good now. You're sitting behind one of the coolest cockpits ever. It's just such a pleasure. It's such a joy. So guys, remember to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything, and leave a comment down below if you have any questions about this car or any other Ferraris that I'm reviewing. Remember, I'm a professional GT racing driver from Singapore. I'll be competing in 2022 with the official Ferrari GT team. So follow me on social media and follow the journey. What's up guys, so today we're having one of my personal local favorites, Tainanese chicken rice. Definitely on my top must-have dishes to eat while I'm in Singapore. Let's give it a try. Chicken is super tender, juicy. Wow.